They called her the rock star of food. Every night, America watched Anne Burrell light up their screens. Flaming pans, bold red hair, punchy lines that made bad cooks believe they could belong. She made chaos look like choreography. But no one saw what happened when the lights turned off. Behind the fame, behind the Food Network glow, Anne sat alone in her Brooklyn kitchen, elbows on the counter, staring at untouched takeout. She hadn't cooked for herself in months. At 55, she had built an empire of confidence, a brand that screamed certainty. But lately her mornings started with silence, not meditation, not reflection, but a dull, heavy nothing. She stopped setting alarms. She stopped playing music while brushing her teeth. Even the cats, Nancy and Lorraine, noticed. They stopped waiting by the fridge. The spark was fading, not gone, but flickering. And Anne knew. It wasn't the audience. It wasn't the ratings. It was the weight of always being on, always fixing others, always smiling. The kind of smile that asks nothing in return, that never cracks. The kind that slowly eats the one who wears it. Some nights she rehearsed how she'd quit TV. Other nights she scrolled through old photos, her in Tuscany, her first day at Felidia, the set of Worst Cooks Season 1. She was always laughing in them, but she couldn't remember why. She'd cancel public appearances last minute, tell her agent she was under the weather. No one questioned it. She was Anne Burrell. She didn't break, but her knives were dull, her kitchen dusty. And when her producer called to pitch another Worst Cooks twist, she whispered yes, out of habit, not hunger. One evening, after taping, she found herself in a diner booth 2 blocks from the studio. No glam, no camera crew, just coffee and a club sandwich. That's where a waitress recognized her. "Are you okay?" the girl asked, not starstruck but curious. Anne blinked. "I'm tired," she said, "but I'll be okay." She lied, not out of shame, out of instinct. That's what pros do. They played it pretty, no matter the rot underneath. And in that moment, coffee gone cold, sandwich untouched, phone lighting up with another network request, Anne realized she didn't need another show. She needed silence. And she needed to teach someone what real food means before she forgot it herself. The culinary school smelled like burnt sugar and fear. Anne had promised she'd drop by for a quick talk, 30 minutes, no cameras, just the legend giving the kids a memory. But when she stepped into the demo kitchen, something shifted. She wasn't here to perform. She was here to remember. The students watched with wide eyes, waiting for fire, jokes, sass. But Anne just stood still, hand resting on the countertop like she needed to anchor herself. A few polite laughs trickled when she joked about soufflés and smoke alarms, but she wasn't chasing laughter today. That's when she saw her. Ava. 19, apron wrinkled, arms crossed tight, eyes fierce. Not impressed, not intimidated, just alert. After the talk, while others lined up for selfies, Ava stayed back, eyes steady. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked, voice low. Anne blinked. "Regret what? Making food your life?" For a second, Anne wanted to say no, to say passion makes everything worth it. But instead, she pulled out a stool, nodded for Ava to sit. "I don't regret the food," she said. "But sometimes I regret not tasting it." Ava tilted her head. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Anne exhaled, "when you feed everyone else for a living, you forget what fed you in the first place." They sat in silence, the hum of the fridge, a soft clatter of knives being washed behind the doors. "You don't seem like someone who forgets," Ava said. "That's the trick," Anne smiled weakly. "I never told anyone. I just performed. That's the most dangerous kind of forgetting, the kind that fools even you." Ava looked down, unsure how to respond. Anne reached into her bag, pulled out an old dog-eared notebook. "No one's ever seen this," she said. "Not producers, not my publisher. It's not for the world. It's for me. For people who get it." She handed it to Ava. Inside were scribbled notes, recipes, memories, Italian phrases, doodles of pans and pasta. Some pages tear-stained, others grease-smudged. "This," Anne said, "is the only part of me I didn't polish." Ava didn't speak. She just held the notebook like it might evaporate. And Anne felt something strange, lighter, as if, by giving someone else the weight, she finally made space to breathe. That night, Anne didn't go straight home. She walked 5 blocks past her stop, wandered into a tiny deli, ordered the dish she loved in Tuscany, pici cacio e pepe. She ate every bite, not because she was hungry, but because,
For the first time in years, she was feeding herself.
It started with a single tomato. Anne held it in her hand, heavy and warm, like a memory not yet spoken. The fridge door creaked open. Ricotta, basil, pancetta. She wasn't making a show. She was making peace. That night, her kitchen glowed differently. Not from studio lights, but from the stove's soft flame, the golden hour spilling through dusty blinds. Nancy and Lorraine curled on the windowsill, as if they too sensed this meal wasn't just dinner. It was something else, something final. Anne didn't rush. She rolled out dough by hand, slow, steady. Each motion deliberate, each crack of her knuckles echoing louder than applause ever had. Her playlist was silent. No jazz, no classic rock. Just her breath, her heartbeat, the pan's soft sizzle. The dish was simple, stuffed shells with lemon zest and browned butter sage, a recipe from her first year in Italy. She had once made it for a lover who forgot her birthday. Tonight, she made it for no one. And yet, it felt more intimate than any table she'd ever set. As the shells baked, she lit a candle. Not scented, just soft vanilla. The kind her mother used on snow days. She opened the window and let the city noise in. Laughter from the sidewalk, a distant siren, the hum of Brooklyn being alive. She didn't mind the chaos. For once, it didn't demand anything from her. She plated carefully. No garnish, no artifice, just warmth. She sat alone, took a bite, and closed her eyes. The sage hit first, then the ricotta, then something she hadn't tasted in years. Herself. Her essence. The version of Anne before fame, before fatigue, before formulas and formats. And with that bite, she felt it, a release. Not sadness, not exactly. After the last bite, she sat back and looked around. Her knives, once symbols of edge and control, rested dull in their block. Her shelves sagged with books she no longer needed. Her apron hung by the door, still stained from a taping last week. And then the pain came, slow, low, behind her ribs. She pressed her palm against her chest. Not panic, not fear, just a pulse too strong. A signal too old to ignore. She stood, gripped the counter. The room didn't spin, it settled, as if time itself paused to let her choose. Anne didn't call anyone. She didn't cry out. She walked to her bookshelf, pulled down a photo from Tuscany, and sat with it. Her hand on her lap, her breath slow. She wasn't scared. She was full. In the quiet, her phone buzzed, a message from Ava. "Major lemon shells tonight. Best thing I've ever cooked. Thank you." Anne smiled. The news broke just after sunrise. Beloved chef Anne Burrell dead at 55. The headline flashed across every screen, bright, jarring, impossible. Tributes poured in. Fellow chefs called her fearless. Networks replayed her most iconic moments. Clips of her laughing, shouting, dancing in a kitchen that now felt too quiet. But the media didn't know about the notebook, about Ava, about the night Anne said goodbye with a spoonful of browned butter and lemon. That story wasn't on cable. It lived in a smaller world. The world Anne left behind, not in awards, but in fingerprints. Ava stood outside the culinary school's demo kitchen the next day, clutching the notebook. Inside, students whispered her name. "She knew Anne," someone said. "She cooked with her." But Ava didn't go in. She walked 5 blocks away to a tiny cafe and asked to use the kitchen. "Just an hour," she said. "It's important." The owner, an old man who once catered for city weddings, recognized the fire in her eyes. He nodded. Ava tied her apron. Her hands shook as she flipped open Anne's notebook. Page 47. The lemon shells. She cooked like Anne did that night. No music, no rush, no apology. When the dish was done, she plated 1 serving, lit a single vanilla candle, and placed it by the window. She didn't eat it. She just sat and watched it steam in the morning light. That was the memorial. No podium, no speeches. Just warmth, just taste. Over the next weeks, Ava shared pages from the notebook online. Not all, just fragments. A phrase Anne had scribbled. Feed people like they're broken, even if they don't say it. A recipe titled, "When Silence is Louder Than Applause." She didn't say where they came from. She didn't need to. Those who read them felt it. Soon, more stories emerged.
A student who'd once burned risotto wrote that Anne made her try again, without flinching. A waiter remembered how Anne stayed late to fold napkins before a wedding. A fan recalled receiving a handwritten recipe after a show taping, just because he asked how she made her sauce feel like a hug. Anne's legacy wasn't loud. It was stitched into others, into the habits of 1,000 kitchens, the patience of 1,000,000 home cooks, into every woman who thought she had to smile through the burnout, and everyone who realized, because of Anne, that she didn't. Months later, a small restaurant opened in Brooklyn. No sign, no PR. Just a handwritten note in the window. Cook like you mean it. Inside, Ava stood at the stove, sleeves rolled, heart steady. Every dish carried a whisper, not of fame, but of someone who cooked through the silence and made it sing.